Call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Farmer,
Here.
Councilmember Santu,
Here.
Councilmember Campion,
Here.
Councilmember Lozano,
Here.
Mayor Lamson.
Here. All right, are there any agenda? Oh, yes. Good. Okay. Can I get everybody to stand up for the silent prayer and the flag salute? And today marks the 6th anniversary of the death and murder of Officer Kevin Tom, so if you would think of him during our moment of silence. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Donna, would you replay the statement, please?
This meeting of the Galt City Council will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, on the Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse cable systems. The meeting is closed captioned and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will air Friday, January 18th at 9 a.m. and Saturday, January 19th at 9 a.m. The City Council meeting videos are also archived on the city's website. A DVD copy is available for checkout from any library branch.
Thank you. On agenda approval, additions or deletions, we're tabling the new employee introduction, which is C1. We're also tabling F3, the approval of final map and subdivision improvement for Morale Estates. Is there any other?
Tabling or pulling from the consent?
That was tabled.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
I'd like,
By the applicant?
Public Works.
Oh,
you wanna,
okay.
would you like some explanation
No.
on that one at all?
That's okay.
They can explain. Okay. Rich?
I would like to pull an item from consent just for a brief question,
Okay.
and that's F4.
F4. Okay. Anything else? Council members? All right, public comment? Presentations. All right, we have a presentation by Patricia Gaiman from the Sacramento County Grand Jury.
Members of the council, thank you. I'm Patricia Gaiman. I'm president of the Sacramento County Grand Jurors Association. We are composed of former members of the grand jury. Two of the things we have is our objectives. Number one is to inform the citizenry what the grand jury is about. People get that confused with the trial of the jury. And secondly, to encourage people to apply to be a member of the grand jury. And one of the reasons we like to do venues like this is the first year we tried this, is because you all have a television audience. And it's an easy way for us to let people know that they can become members of the grand jury if they'd like to apply. So this will give us an opportunity to tell them a little bit about what the grand jury is. And then all of your television members can apply to be on the grand jury.
Could you turn her up just a little bit, please?
Hold on.
Should I do anything different with this?
That's not working.
Is it on?
As most of you know, the regular jury service is one where we get a summons and we go down to the courthouse and there's a trial. It's either a criminal one, more often criminal than a civil one, between a plaintiff and a defendant. And then you serve your time and you're done until the next time you get a summons. Well, the grand jury is very different. The grand jury service is for a year. It's from July 1 to June 30th. The grand jury may deal with some criminal matters, but the year I was on the grand jury, we didn't have any. California, unlike the other states, has a different procedure. And so if you've watched Law and Order on television in New York, and people are always going and getting murders and all kinds of bad things happen, that doesn't happen in California. Unlike other states, California has a grand jury that investigates the local governments within the county. And that is in terms of any kind of problem, any kind of situation, the grand juries have the power to do that. And in the county of Sacramento, that means the county government, the 7 cities, the 14 school districts, including the Los Rios Community College District, 84 special districts, and 14 joint powers agreements. So it's a broad swath of responsibility and jurisdiction that the grand jury has. So you could kind of say that the grand jury is kind of the watchdog of the local governments, particularly since newspapers have had to cut back and their investigative reporters aren't what they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. A grand juror must be impartial, very important, open-minded, closed mouth. Everything that the grand jury does is by law secret and cannot be divulged in the process, even to spouses and close friends and people, even your own attorney. You can't tell anybody what's going on in the grand jury. Patient, respectful of the opinions of others, willing to work as a team. This is no place for Lone Rangers. This has to be a collaborative operation. Legally, a member of the grand jury has to be 18 years old, a citizen of the United States for a year, a resident of the county for a year, and able to communicate orally and in writing. There are 19 people on the grand jury and 11 alternates in the wings if somebody has to leave and life happens, and so things do where people are not able to complete their full term. There are alternates available. The grand jury work is about 15 to 20, 25 hours a week. It's rather like having a part-time job, though it's okay if you take a vacation. There is pay. There's $30 a meeting for 2 meetings, not to exceed 2 meetings a day, even if you do exceed 2 meetings a day. Most importantly, from anybody in this part of the world, mileage is covered and parking is covered. So if you have a long distance to go, like folks from this part would, because I just drove down here, I know how long it is, that can be a very big inducement to make sure that you might be interested. The grand jury investigates and reports on the accounts, records, operations, functions of the governmental entities within the county. The grand jury, by law, has to tour all the detention facilities in the county, which means the 2 state prisons in Folsom, the county jail, the Rio Cosumnes Correctional Institution, which is not too far from you folks, and any juvenile facilities. The grand jury reviews complaints that are submitted to it by residents of the county, and anybody can submit a complaint. The form is available on the grand jury website, or you can send a letter, and the address is on the grand jury website. The grand jury issues a report every year at the end of the year, June 30th. This is one from 1917-18. This is the report. And these are available online for many years so people can look at them and see, especially if you're going to apply to be a member of the grand jury, it's a good idea to take a look at the reports and see what they're like and what kind of work you'd be involved with. The selection process used to be that the only people that could be on the grand jury were appointed by judges. But that has been changed a lot so that for the most part, the people here would be concerned about is an application process. The applications are on the website for the Sacramento County Grand Jury, and you can download them, fill them out, and send them in. The deadline is January 26th, so that's just a couple weeks from now. There will be a meeting in February in Judge Russell Hamm's, in the courthouse that Judge Russell Hamm, who is the advisor judge, will preside over, and he makes a presentation to all those people applying to tell them how serious it is to be a member of the grand jury and how important it is that the work be well done. It's an important function of government. And then sitting members of the grand jury tell what it's really like to be on the grand jury. There's an interview process, and then the judges go over all of those that have applied, and they put together the applicant pool, and those people are notified. And in May, everybody's invited to Judge Ham's chambers, and it's a regular court hearing. The court reporter's there taking everything down. It's a big deal. And all of the names are put into a bingo cage, and one by one, they're pulled out. It's as random a procedure as, I guess, has been devised. And when 19 people are seated, then 11 people alternates are seated, and the 19 that are selected are sworn in right on the spot by Judge Hom, and then on July 1st, they take office. So I just wanted to let people know that this is kind of a thumbnail sketch of what happens with the grand jury, the kinds of things they do, and how, if anybody's interested, how they can get to be on the grand jury. And it's a wonderful experience. You learn a lot. You see a lot of things you never knew. You go to places in the county you weren't there. So I just suggest if anybody's in a position to consider it, do. And if you can't apply this year, there's always next year and the following year. And if you apply and get into the pool but don't get elected, get picked, you can apply the next year. You can apply for as many times as you want. And we have a lady that's on the current grand jury. This is her 5th year. She kept going back for 5 times, and she won. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you.
So when you don't have another job, you can apply for the grand jury.
Thank you very much. Sounds like a very important and interesting opportunity. Hopefully we'll get some Galt people up there. All right, public comment.
Under Government Code Section 54954.3, members of the public may address the City Council on non-agenda items. The public comments section is for the City Council to receive comments, except for brief responses to questions. No discussion or action may be taken on any item that is not listed on the agenda. Please limit comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Speaker cards are located on the table inside the entrances to the council chambers. Once completed, forward the speaker card to the clerk. Those persons wishing to speak on any item scheduled on the agenda will be given an opportunity to do so at the time the item is being considered. And I have 3.
All right, thank you. Can I call Susan Meacham to the podium, please? She's speaking on a tree on trail. Seems to be in the way.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Susan Meacham. And I live at 949 Cottrell, right at the corner of Marengo and Walnut. And there's a tree right next to my property coming through the fence. I have pictures. I've contacted Parks and Rec to no avail. And I'm really concerned that it's going to mess with my foundation, come down on my house. And I really like to see something happen. So that's about all I have to say. I know you can't. Do you have any questions of me? Anybody want to see photos?
Yeah. Mayor, I'll just have staff, have Chris take a look at it, and we'll address it with Ms. Meacham tomorrow.
All right.
What,
Do you want to say?
I missed your address. What was that again?
949 Cottrell.
Okay.
You probably know it. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Next, looks like we have Bob Ballier on the Commission on Aging.
Thank you.
Pass them all down for you. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Vice Mayor. Good evening, Council people. As the only current member of the Commission on Aging, I had to cancel our December regular scheduled meeting because we had no quorum. I ask you respectfully to consider the following action. 1, the council member who intends to reappoint Marie P. Hall, who is present, for another 4-year term, who submitted her application and qualifies under the current city ordinance reference qualifications to serve on the Commission on Aging, do so appoint her this evening if possible. 2, the council member who intends to reappoint Penny Niemeyer for a full 4-year term, who submitted her application and qualifies under the current city ordinance reference qualifications to serve on Commission on Aging, do so appoint her this evening if possible. 3, I respectfully further request that the tabling of the remaining appointment considerations for the Commission on Aging continue until after the proposed changes to the city ordinance reference qualifications to serve on Commission on Aging becomes effective. 4, finally, I respectfully request that the city clerk administer the oath of office to both appointees if it happens tonight, as soon as possible, but before our next scheduled commission meeting, which is next Thursday, January 24th. Since Ms. Hall is with us tonight, maybe the oath of office can be administered to her before the end of today's council meeting. Ms. Niemeyer, on the other hand, indicated that she would be available tomorrow for such an oath of office if the clerk's office contacts her for that purpose. That way, the commission will be back in business, having a quorum, to continue to advocate for the senior population of our city with the important task of preparing for the opening of Galt Senior Resource Center by the end of March 2019. As of this evening, I have received 4 volunteer requests from the community to serve in the Resource Center. So I'm really excited about that. And when Ms. Niemeyer gets back on the commission, I will work with her to make sure that we schedule training, whatever is involved with all that. And I'll be meeting with the Director of Parks and Recreation tomorrow to further check into the progress of the Resource Center that's coming up. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Mr. Bailey, I have to apologize. We got your letters, appreciate your letter, and I actually didn't realize that they have to be on the agenda to be appointed. So when Vice Mayor Farmer asked me if he could appoint his during this council meeting, I assumed he could at the end during comments. And that's what I get for not checking with my city clerk and city manager. So I really apologize. You want to finish addressing?
Have this on the next agenda.
Okay, so that means probably we won't have a meeting and that's right, we won't have a meeting because I'm the only one there.
Well, Mr.
I
Bellier,
want to talk to myself.
also too, just so you know, that I think it was the consensus of some of the council to table the appointments for some of them, and for myself, it was the Commission on Aging, because my particular applicant would not qualify until the
Yeah.
changes that we've set in motion. Those changes, of course, won't be finalized until it's a process and it takes time, and so it's going to be on the agenda for the next meeting, and then we'll have to see what the timeline is for that.
Right,
So-
that's why I put number 3.
Yeah, so, just so you know, I mean, I know it, I feel your pain. I wanted to appoint someone to Safety Committee, tonight, so that they could attend the meeting, which is on the 28th.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, based on what Mayor Lamson just told you, I wasn't able to do that, so,
I was just hoping for the 2, so that I can have another meeting, because we didn't have a meeting in December. Now we won't have one in January, but it is what it is, and I'm flexible.
Yeah,
We'll catch up.
But there's nothing prohibiting them from attending the meetings.
I understand, but we can't take any action, as you know.
he doesn't have a quorum, he's only a member.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I can vote for myself, I guess. but that's-
Quorum.
Okay, well, thank you for listening. Good evening.
All right, next, I would like to call Bonnie Rodriguez, who is going to speak on the very exciting details of Galt's 150th anniversary.
Well, I'm going to call it a birthday. So Bonnie Rodriguez, on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to say happy birthday, Galt. You're about 150 years old, not as a city, but as a community. And I'm here before the council to invite you to join the Chamber and the Historical Society in celebrating this entire year, this 150th year. This is a pretty substantial birthday, one that is very difficult for me to say, so I'm going to try it. Everybody can correct me. Sesquicentennial? I can write it, but I can't say it.
Sesquicentennial.
So, there you go. So 150 years, so this is pretty significant. So the two, the Chamber and the Historical Society would like to meet. We've decided to have a meeting, and we would like to invite the city to possibly send a representative as well, so we can start planning some activities or an activity. That's what this committee needs to get together and decide what to do. But the community should be aware that, you know, this is a significant step for us. This is a kind of a big deal. The city celebrated it in 1994, their 125th. There was many activities throughout the year, and then of course in 1969 there were all throughout the year, there were many things planned for their 100th, for their centennial. And so we would, not that we are going to match that, but we would like to bring some attention to Galt. This is a significant birthday for us. I would call it an anniversary, however, I'd like to offer our thoughts and prayers to the police department since they're celebrating a different anniversary today. We won't call it an anniversary till later. So this is the Galt's 150th birthday, so hope that the city of Galt can participate with the other organizations. And anyone out there in TV land or in the audience who has any input or would like to participate in helping plan or volunteer, we strongly encourage you to reach out to either one of the organizations, find out when the meeting is and where, and we welcome all input and all help. So, thank you.
Do you
Ms.
have
Rodriguez?
a meeting set, Ms. Rodriguez?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a meeting set?
I do, and I can't remember, was it the
January
22nd?
22nd.
Oh, that's right, 2 weeks from today.
Send me an email on the date, and I'll get a staff member there.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment at this time? All right, reports by city council members on regional boards, commissions, and committees. Vice Mayor Farmer.
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Sandu.
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Campion.
Not tonight.
Councilmember Lozano.
Just nothing really to report, but the first SACOG meeting is going to be on Thursday morning. And so at the next council meeting, I'll have something to report on that. And then Sacramento Area Transportation Authority, the first meeting for that is going to be on the 14th of February. And so more to come after that.
Okay. I attended the Youth Commission meeting last Monday, and they're working on some events and things, and they helped, and they're working on helping at the Winter Bird Festival, so that's kind of exciting. I also met with the director of the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District, of which I'm now a board member, and I will be joining you Thursday morning for my meeting during the time. So, all right. Information calendar. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting, December 18th, 2018, receive and file warrants for period ending December 19th, 2018.
I would like to make a motion.
One second. Treasurer report for period ending October 2018 and November 2018. And I believe Councilmember Sandu, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve the minute on last meeting.
All right, can I get a second?
Second.
It's for the entire calendar, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
It's just for the minute.
No,
No,
I
There are
didn't,
three items
He
on
didn't read
consent, and
four.
she read all three.
I read the three that are still left on consent.
It was for the consent calendar.
Yes,
So it should be items 1, 2, and 5 on the consent calendar,
yes,
correct?
that's what I read, 1, 2, 5, sorry. Okay. So we have a,
Second?
Councilmember Sandu made the motion and Councilmember Campion. All right,
Thank you.
call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Farmer.
Aye.
Councilmember Sandu.
Aye.
Councilmember Campion.
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano.
Aye.
Mayor Lamson.
Aye. Motion passed, 5-0. Now, do we pull the ones that we pulled? Okay, so up for discussion is the template for department director employment agreements.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask one question. I apologize to the city manager. This was a last-minute question that popped up, and I don't know the answer to it, and I'd rather see if we know it before voting on it. In Section 5 of the agreement under termination of, I guess it's termination of employment and severance, C, in the second paragraph, it talks about a severance of up to no more than 4 months or whatever's fewer than, well, it says, or the number of months remaining in an agreement, whichever is less. The question was posed that there may be some kind of restriction, either a PERS restriction or a legal restriction on the amount of money a severance can pay out.
I think I can answer that question for you. There are legal limitations on the amount of severance that you can pay out under the government code sections, and some of those are cited at the end of the template. Usually, I think it's 1 year is the absolute maximum under the statute, so the 4 months is under that provision and what has been in current department head agreements. So
Okay, and
we weren't making any change to that. And it would then be, if it was less than 4 months left on the term, that would be the lesser of the two. So this is in compliance with the updates to this, to the law.
Okay, and the question was posed that it was something like 50,000, and I thought that was awfully low, and I don't know where that would have come from. Does that ring a bell? Because I tried to do quick phone research, but
That does not ring a bell. I don't think that's correct that I'm aware of. I'll double check. Obviously, this would, we would be making updates to this as required by the law, and we have added sections, so I will certainly double check. I'm not aware of a dollar amount limitation. I'm aware of the time limit limitation.
okay.
As to the amount, the number of months of severance that you can authorize.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you.
So I have a question. I actually had emailed city manager with some questions which he clarified for me on this. So to understand what we're approving here is basically a template that he could use for further to be consistent in hiring, whatever we do now. So we have, for example, a 4-year term and say a 4-month severance, just to point out a couple things, that he could use that as consistency to go forward instead of it varying. He mentioned to me that this was the time, the reason he was bringing this up is because we're in a moment now where we're getting ready to hire a department head, public works director. And so he thought, obviously the staff report says that it would be a good time to bring this up to see if there was any input the council had in changing any of the things that we're offering. This would be the time to do it. Otherwise, if we approve this, basically they'll just continue with what's being set forth already. So I just wanted to make sure my fellow council people understood that's what it is, and if there was any comments or anything anybody had about terms. I personally, the 4-year term, I understand that, you have to entice good people, so it makes sense that you want to make good offers. I also, when I look at a 4-year contract and then think severance, I think, you commit to someone 4 years and you're locked in. If that person doesn't work out, then you're automatically on the hook I don't know. I just think that if there was any input at all from me, I would like, maybe if there was, we could look at maybe like doing a 2 with a 2 extension of some sort. I don't want to slow down the process. I'm just throwing ideas out there. I just think that it's a healthy time to discuss and see if we're all on the same page. So,
Well, I don't understand. What was your concern, Sean?
just basically bring up if anybody had any input about changing what we currently offer. We currently offer 4 year. 4 years is what we typically offer. That's the set amount that we offer a department head, and then 4-month severance. If there's any, if everybody's okay with those, if anybody would like to see, a longer severance, more or less, a longer term of contract, anything like that. Just want to make sure that everybody understands that this is what this is about. That we're giving city manager the green light to just continue with what he already does.
On this issue, I have one question. I believe with the city manager, I believe there is somebody you asked the question on that is a minor changes. If somebody explained to me the minor changes, what kind of minor changes is pamphlet we were using before and the pamphlet we are right now.
I think I can answer most of those. Some of them are just cleanup as we were going through the agreement. One, I was checking the code citations that we had in the agreement. Some of them have been changed in the government code. I think that was the primary one, and then just adding in, clarification, just basically bracketing points that were changing from various agreements so that it would be a maximum of up to 4 years. The current templates just say they are 4 years. So that would be the maximum, and then also the severance, and then noting that the other benefits would change. Those were the primary changes. They were just minor cleanup edits.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm happy with the template. I think a template's a good thing to have so that we have a starting place for when hiring and people understand kind of what the base for a contract would look like. Of course, these are negotiable contracts with the prospective employee. But I think in terms of trying to gain some consistency and allowing the city manager to have a base to work from that we approve and then move forward, I think that's a good thing as we, hopefully we don't have to hire too many directors, but as far as the severance, I'm not necessarily concerned about the length of the severance. I think if we hire well, you don't have to worry as much about severance. So focusing on the hiring, I think, would take care of some of that, but I'm okay with it. I just had that one question that popped up that I thought, oh no, I hope we're not doing something we shouldn't.
I think, like I said, I will double check on the 50,000. I think for most, with the 4 months, most of yours are going to be under 50,000 in any event. But I will double check on that to be sure.
Okay, thank you.
I'm satisfied with the agreement.
So maybe Councilmember Campion, since you've been a department head, is the 4 years normal or some average for some of the cities you've worked in?
Well, I think the 4 years gives a future employee some sense of stability. They may have to relocate, and for anything, if you went with a 2-year option, I think it would cut into the pool of potential candidates. And again, if the employee's doing a good job, you can always come back for a contract amendment for an extended period of time. So I think it's a good starting point.
Thank you.
Yeah, so just to clarify, so Ms. Hood, you said that it was basically just altered where it says a maximum of 4 years. So if our city manager wanted to go less, it would be up to your discretion?
Correct.
And just to clarify, just so the public knows too, city manager has sole authority to hire and fire and city employees. These are not approved by city council. We hire him to do that. So if he picks out a candidate, that contract basically is negotiated by him. It doesn't come to the city council for approval. So just wanted to clarify that's how it works. That's correct, right? Mr. Plaza?
Correct.
Okay, any more discussion? All right. Can I get a motion to accept the template for department director employment agreements?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by, was it Councilmember Lozano? Can I get a second?
I'll do the second.
Second by Councilmember Sandu. Roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Farmer,
Aye.
Councilmember Sandu,
Aye.
Councilmember Campion,
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano,
Aye.
Mayor Lamson.
Aye. All right, scheduled manners. Let me get there, sorry. Do I open it first? We received the presentation regarding the adoption,
You want to read the item or
proposed refuge collection rate adjustments.
introduce Mr. Clarkson to start us out with this item?
Mayor, council, I have the fortunate introduction here for this rate case. I've been involved in several other rate cases, and when I woke up this morning, it said it's my turn. No, I'm kidding there. A lot of information. We're going to do a presentation here tonight that's going to give a lot of information on what we had in the past 10, 11 months coming up through an agreement that the council adopted a contract back in September with Cal Waste. And then following the Prop 218 guidelines, we move forward over the next several months to present the tables, to present the fees that are going to be charged, to notify all the public the way we're supposed to provide. And we have a series of things that we're going to try to accomplish tonight. Besides the presentation, it's going to be, again, broken down in two parts: what we've done up and through September, and then what we followed on the Prop 218 from that point forward to today. We're going to ask that you have a public hearing right after we give the presentation for comments from the community. And then we're going to ask the city clerk to go ahead and count up all the protests and everything, the written protests that we have. And then if you would like, we have a resolution that we have for you to adopt tonight available. So right now we have, with Public Works, we have Carlos Solaria, who's going to provide the presentation. We have some people in the audience from Cal Waste who are here, Jack Fiore and others. And then we also, we don't have our consultant from R3. They had a family emergency this morning, and unfortunately they can't be here. But I think between us, between the experience that we have, between a former employee, Steve Winkler, who's on his own dime, he'll provide history if it's needed. But we're all here ready to respond as needed. So, Carlos, you're up. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Clarkson, for the introduction. Good evening, Major Lamson and members of council and everyone else in the audience. Again, my name is Carlos Soloria. I'm the administrative analyst for Public Works. And well, some of us may be familiar with some of the terms of the contract that we've seen back in September and know the upcoming rate increases based on what we got in the mail. Some of us may still be wondering, so how did we get ourselves into this, right? So I'm going to give you some background and some information that will hopefully help you answer those questions. So there are several factors that led the city to negotiate an extension with Cal Waste. First one is the contract was set to expire in the current fiscal year. And so we had to renegotiate. However, there were other items that were also pushing for an update to the services contract. And those included changes in the market, changes in state legislation, and of course, one of the reasons to stick with Cal Waste is because they have been providing excellent service at very competitive pricing to the community. And so let me talk about the market. So what does changes in the market mean? That means a lot. We hear it on TV, and you may be wondering, well, how does that really impact Galt, right? So in other communities, of course, historically and until recently, China has been the greatest importer of recycled material, and they create all these great things that we then purchase through and make up another product. So between 2017 and 2018, China created new policies and created new programs that restricted a number of recycled materials from other countries, and that included the United States. And so, yes, that's restrictions on the US, but what about Galt, right? So a majority of these recyclable products that were banned or were no longer acceptable to China were also products that were recyclables that were collected here in California, and more specifically also in Galt. So just to give you an example, Cal Waste went from having or collecting some revenue for the community from the sale of recyclable materials to having to pay for the disposal of recyclable materials. So we're collecting, we're getting some revenue, all of a sudden we no longer have that revenue come in to the community. And what about state legislation? There are many changes that are affecting how Californians dispose of their trash and how Californians recycle. With regards to what is so there are a number of changes in legislation that affect the city and the statewide. Three of the most important are listed on the screen, and these are AB 341, which set new goals for diversion throughout the state. And so what does that mean? So all of a sudden the state wants us to recycle more and to send less to the landfill. AB 1826, which mandates recycling of organics and food waste in various areas, and it's set on a progressive scale. So, you know, first a certain number of businesses and multifamily complexes with generating a certain number of or a certain amount of trash are required to have recycling programs, organic recycling programs, and that increases over the years for these businesses. In addition, SB 1383 sets higher goals of diverting organics from the landfill to 75% by year 2025. And to give you an idea of what that looks like on paper, on the screen you have two pie charts. One which shows the current level of diversion by the city, and the second one which shows where the state wants us to be. The red represents the amount of trash that's going to the landfills. And so as you can see on the first one, we are at 64%, and the state wants us to be at 75%. So that is a huge jump. It may seem small, but when you think about what it takes to change the way that we recycle, the way that we do business, it's a significant amount of work that must happen. Not only that, but there are other implications that affect how we get from the red on the left to the red on the right. So these new laws, again, represent new programs that must be implemented in the city. And that means we will be recycling more if we want to keep the trash away from the landfill, if we want to keep the organics away from the landfill. And so what does that also mean is that we will have more recyclable materials, and with the market the way it is, we have a surplus of recyclables. And it further struggles to sell or to dispose of recycled material. Just as an example, in 2018, as these progressive mandates start to be implemented, Cal Waste was unable to find a place to dispose of its organics for several months. And it took several months for them to find a location to get rid of them. So we were doing our part in collecting the materials, but we had nowhere to send them. So that's another problem that we're encountering, and that's another effort that Cal Waste is working on. And that, unfortunately, creating programs and spending the resources and sending these recyclables to the proper places costs money, and that money, those extra expenses on the hauler, unfortunately, get passed on to us, the consumer. And so that's why we are also increasing the rates. You may see that bottom portion, not to mention that we were also, in a way, spoiled by not having implemented a rate increase for the last 5 years in the city of Galt. To ensure that the city negotiated a new service contract or a contract extension with Cal Waste, the city staff were guided by an ad hoc committee of city council and R3 Consulting, a specialist in creating this type of contracts and reviewing service rates and ensuring that entities enter into sound contracts and adopt sound service rates. During the next slide, please. The new service contract was approved by council back in September. I think you went to, oh, there you go. Back in September. It was briefly mentioned by Mr. Clarkson. There is a 12-year term and several changes in the contract, primarily changes that will ensure that the city is in compliance with the new state mandates. And in the new contract, Cal Waste assumes responsibility for ensuring that new programs are created and that the city is in compliance, subject to city penalties. Some of the new changes in the contract include new programs, new cards, and lots of community outreach. As I said earlier, not only do we need programs, but we also need to inform our citizens, our businesses, of which mandates are requiring changes and what changes apply to your business and to you as a resident or a citizen. Other non-mandated changes that come with the new contract are new service trucks, a new bulky waste program that will include the use of a handy hauler, which is a very handy container that allows people to put what used to be known as a bulky waste inside a container, and it makes it also more effective for Cal Waste to collect. Another change that comes with the new contract is the creation of a rate stabilization fund, which is sort of a cushion that was built into the contract that will, in a way, reduce the impact of future rate hikes. So if we were to be faced with significant changes in market or legislation, there is a rate stabilization fund that will, in a way, offset some of the cost, some of the impact to the consumer. Before going in detail about the rates or putting some of the rates up on the screen, I'd like to remind customers of their rights with regards to final adoption of the service rates. Because this is a property-related service, the rate approval is still subject to Prop 218, so you all have a say in this. You all have the right to either protest or support the rate increase. At least 45 days prior to today's public hearing, the city mailed written notices to all customers and property owners within city limits. And these notices included rate information and included instructions for how to submit a protest. Written protest must be in writing and must be submitted to the clerk before the close of the public hearing tonight, which is next. Only one protest per property. Oral comments will not qualify as a protest unless they're accompanied by a formal written protest. Protest must be submitted by the customer, property owner, or their authorized representative. And because we know that sometimes reading all the details in those notices is not the easiest thing, especially if it's the fine print, we've brought with us some protest forms that can be filled out tonight. We have them at both ends of, or in case there are citizens interested in filling them out. Just be sure to submit your completed form before the end of the public hearing, and you can hand them back to staff, and they will direct them to our city clerk. Majority protest rule applies, which means that if there is a majority of the property owners or residents that protest to the adoption of the rates will not go into effect, and staff will have to seek further direction from council as to how to provide the services in a compliant manner. Next slide. So residential rates, the table above shows the proposed residential rates compared to the current rates. It's a significant increase, as you will notice. All service levels listed above include a 96-gallon yard waste and recycling cart on alternating weeks, and is set to increase over a 2-year period, subject to a water, sewer, and trash index rate in future years. As the graph on the screen compares the existing, the proposed, the Sacramento average, and the North California average rates, you will notice that the rates compared to have jumped significantly from our current rates. Fortunately, Galt is one of the leading agencies in the Sacramento region to update their collection services agreements to address the changes in the markets and changes in legislation. Unfortunately, because we are leading in the region, we have no comparison in terms of apples to apples. The other agencies, our neighboring agencies, are still going through the process of updating their contract or are barely looking at it in that sense. However, when you compare the proposed rates to the Northern California average, the rates still seem pretty competitive.
Hey, Carlos, I'm sorry. Can you tell people what the colors represent? Because it's kind of hard. Some of us may not be able to read the colors.
Yes. The light green represents the current rates. Darker green represents the proposed rates. The blue is the Sacramento average, and the purple is the Northern California average. As I said, the dark green, which is the proposed rates compared to the blue, seems a little higher. But again, we are leading the path in terms of updating our services contracts to be in line with what's required by the state and with the changes in the market. In fact, other agencies have reached out to us and have asked if they can see what our contract looks like, and as they are going through the process right now. Commercial rates are also increasing significantly, and earlier I briefly went into some of the legislation that is affecting businesses, which is driving some of why these costs are increasing. A lot of the legislation, parts of the legislation are centered on commercial recycling and commercial organics recycling, and those programs are what I was referring to as creating a surplus of recyclable material and requiring the creation of additional programs and infrastructure. Comparing, again, the commercial rates to our existing rates, same colors, light green represents the current rates, darker green represents the proposed rates, the light blue represents the Sacramento average, and the blue represents the Northern California average. The rates still seem competitive when compared to Northern California average. If you were also to do some math in terms of comparing what a residential container costs and how many containers make up a commercial container, you would realize that even though it looks like the commercial rates are increasing significantly, the rates would still seem pretty sound and seem in line with the residential rates. I will now hand it back to Mr. Clarkson, but will remain available if you have questions.
So through the history and what we've had of all the input from staff, from city council, the ad hoc committee, and the council adopting approving a contract last year, we've developed these rates. And we've had R3, unfortunately R3 wasn't able to be here today, but they were able to look at financials, they were be able to look at details. They have the experience in dealing with these type of franchises. That's why we brought in a separate consultant to come in and review everything with Cal Waste and making sure that we're getting a good benefit for us. So now we're looking at continuing the Prop 218, and if the council wishes to have a public hearing on this.
I think we do. All right, I'd like to open the public hearing. I received comments and written protests. I have some public speakers. Bonnie Rodriguez.
Again, Bonnie Rodriguez on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. This is a touchy situation for us. As you can imagine, as Cal Waste is a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and we have many businesses who are members of the Chamber of Commerce. A little bit of a conflict. Cal Waste, the Chamber recognizes Cal Waste is probably one of the best community-minded businesses in our city. And they routinely are in the schools. Anybody calls and asks almost anything, Cal Waste is there. I'll be asking about the 150th birthday party. But we do have a number of businesses who are going to very much struggle under what's happening. And we understand this is not Cal Waste going for a money grab. We get that. We know that they are under a lot of pressure to comply. The city is under a lot of pressure to comply. But we do have quite a few businesses that are going to struggle. As you saw in the graphs that are up there, a lot of these businesses are going to hit with almost a 30% increase. We have a business locally who had a 4-yard waste bin, and when the mailer came out, was very shocked, and it went down to a 2-yard waste bin. And their bill will still increase monthly after cutting it in half. So the chamber would like not just the council to recognize the hit, and it is a significant hit that the businesses are taking with this increase. But we would like the residents to know that the businesses are taking a hit, and please be patient with them. Our eateries are going to be hit tremendously. We have one that is very popular in town, that their garbage bill alone is going up over $2,000 a month, going up to $2,000 a month. Again, this is not Cal Waste's fault, and there's no blame put there. But the residents and everyone everyone's getting hit. And this is hard. This is hard. I live in town too. It's hard. But our businesses are going to struggle with this. So the chamber would like to put a plea before the council that as other policies are being put forth in front of you, and as other options are putting in front of you, whether it's wastewater or whether it's water, or whether it's that you have to have certain amount of connections for irrigation that are not being used and you're still paying an outrageous connection fee. That there are some thoughts put into these poor businesses that are taking a hit, and let's be honest, and it is very recognizable that the businesses are taking a greater hit than the residents because the businesses don't vote for and don't have the numbers to go and fight for this. So please keep them in mind as other options come before you, because the chamber has been approached by several businesses that this just might be it. They were struggling before, and these kind of decisions on top of other decisions and fees, this just might be it for them. This is a significant sacrifice for these businesses to take. And again, I want to make it very clear, this is not Cal Waste's fault. We appreciate and recognize everything that Cal Waste does for this community. They are there 24/7 for the most part. And so we thank Cal Waste for being there for us, but we really are pleading with City Council to watch for your businesses also. You have businesses start failing, I don't have to give you the economics over it. You have businesses failing in town. You don't have a thriving town. Your economy plummets, and everything you make up, all the decisions you make up here are for nothing. So please keep these businesses in mind when future decisions that you have a little bit more control over happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. I'm having a hard time with this name. I see R.W. Lutenheier? Okay. I just can't read all the letters, sorry.
Sorry about that.
Do you need it spelled? Do you want it spelled? State your name for the record, please.
Hi, Ron W. Lutzenheiser. I own a house at 994 Doredale Court. Due to my aged years and whatnot, I was having problems understanding what the gentleman was talking about and reading his charts. I mean, I can understand what he was saying about the colors, but according to this right here, the different, what's on the average house, what size of a container does it have to be, these plastic containers, these waist-high containers? Does anyone have any idea?
I can answer that.
Okay.
So the average residence in Galt is using a container which currently costs around $25.
No, but what size is it?
It's
64 gallons.
64 gallons.
Okay. So it says here that the 64 gallons is going to go up roughly, $9 a month? But that's what, for the first year?
Yes.
Second year, what's going to go up second year?
It will go after the 3 rate increases happen until 2021. It'll actually go from 25. So if you're paying 25 now, you'll be paying roughly $39 at the end of the increases. So it's basically about it's a $13 and some odd change increase over 3 years.
Okay, well, I guess when I originally read all this, when it first came out, I guess I was reading the industrial one.
Yeah, the charts are very confusing, I have to tell you. I had to go back, the commercial charts are very complex. But the residential one, I looked at that in depth because I, had many citizens asking. And like I said, to repeat that again, the average household is using a cart which costs about $25. That same cart at the end of the 3-year increases, one increase starting in February this year, and then next year February, and then in 2021.
When you say cart, you're talking about the plastic.
Your trash can. Yeah.
Okay, this is for each one.
Yes, so your trash can, if you are one of those average citizens using the 64 gallon, right? 64 gallon? Mm-hmm. Yeah, then your rate will be approximately $38, roughly $39 by 2021.
Okay, does that go for the green waste and the recycle too?
Those
or
are
just for the
included
trash?
with your service.
Sorry?
Those are included with your service. At no charge. You get the recycle, you get one recycle, you get 2 recycles included with your service.
Right.
That you
But
don't,
so this is just overall for service then?
yes.
Not per can, right? I got 3
No.
cans, I'm not $13 a can every month.
No, only yeah.
Okay, well, it's a little hard to explain. Personally, that kind of shoots a hole in the reason I came here because I know my wife and I are retired. incomes, but 13 bucks a month we can afford. Undoubtedly, there are a large number of other people that $13 a month is going to hit. But listening to the gentleman's original statements saying that because of China won't take these things to recycle, and because the United States has passed these laws, then you have to split this stuff out and recycle. It seems like to me we're approaching this from the wrong end. Instead of charging more to recycle, should we be cutting back on the products that are made from these items that are hard to recycle? I mean, why stick the user? Why not stick the producer? Let the people that okay, it'll drive up the price a little bit, but let the people that buy it, let them suffer the cost instead of all of us. Kind of reminds me of the state of California just passed, they extended the gas tax to folk to, quote, fix potholes and bridges and stuff. And the reason they had to do this was because for years and years and years, the government raided the gasoline tax money and used it in the general fund. But now, and they scare everyone by saying there's no money to fix things, raise the taxes. And it's like the people out in Southern California. For 60 or 70 years, they've had poisoned water and been drinking it, and nobody said a thing about it until this election year. And all of a sudden, it's a big deal, and now they want to tax our drinking water to fix our drinking water down there. Seems like the government goes at this at the wrong end, and quite frankly, it upsets me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Any other? Do we have any more public comment or protests? Come to the podium, please.
My name is Elena Bedard, and I live in 175 Pueblo Hollow Drive. I own a home. I've been living in here for the last 18 years, and I have been seeing all the increasement. Right now, I am in a fixed income. It doesn't seem to be a lot for a lot of people, but for me, the increasement increased more what I have to reduce in my living expenses. I was looking at the chart where they were explaining that there were money that were collected that went back to, to the people. But I don't see where the money went to. That's number one. Number two, the chart that what is in LA, in Sacramento, they're trying to put big city with a lot of more people. In Galt, they have less, this community is not very affluent. And then trying to connect those charts to this community. So my question is, where is base of those charts of, I know that they have regulations, I understand that. But we cannot keep up with the big city when this is a small town. That was my concern. And I only had to say that. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Does anybody want to answer? Any more public?
Hi, my name is Jerry Sauter. I live on Wakita Court. I guess my only concern is, and I just want to go on record saying, I understand the legislative requirements for the rate increase. What I'm a little concerned at is when my car insurance goes up, I solicit bids from other car insurers. When Xfinity raises my rate, I look and see who else there is. I'm a little concerned that the council entered into a 12-year agreement without an RFP for waste collection services. And if I'm understanding that correctly, if it's not correct, I would like to know. But it is concerning that the council didn't conduct an RFP to solicit competitive bids for waste collection services. And then if Cal Waste did turn out to be the local provider with the best rate for the community, to go ahead and remain with them, or to use competitive bids with other organizations to perhaps leverage them instead of hiring a consultant to develop rates. So that's my issue with the increase, not the legislation behind it. So, thank you.
Thank you. We have another one.
I see you have, Rick Walters.
Thank you, Rick.
Okay, I'm on board. I see you have a guard tower and some barriers here. Did you check with the state of California before you put those in?
Absolutely.
Okay. Extraordinary circumstances in the contract. Can somebody explain to me what the heck that means? The way I read it is that they can raise the rates anytime they want, the city or Cal Waste. Mr. Campion, you were the...
Well, Mr. Palazzo, do you want to?
Well, I'm not quite sure what section or what he's talking about. I can certainly get
It's in the
with him after
contract, sir. That's what we're here for, to discuss.
New laws type things.
Okay, I don't know what section you're looking at in the contract, if you want to.
It's right in the front of the contract, within the first 25, 30 pages.
Okay.
Never mind.
Any more public comment? Okay. May I receive a report? All right, we're closing the public hearing. Can we receive a report on the tabulation of written protests regarding the proposed refuge collection rate adjustments?
Okay. Including the written protests that I received tonight, I've received a total of 17 written protests.
Okay. In the absence of a majority protest, can I get a motion to adopt a resolution approving the proposed refuge collection rates as set forth in the public notices sent to customers and property owners, including an annual adjustment through 2024?
Mayor Lamson, are we not allowed to make comment regarding before we vote?
We can, sure, if there's some discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, you go ahead.
Yes, first of all, I would like to, if somebody can put on the commercial rate comparison on the board, and from somebody from public work, they can explain line by line what that mean is and how the rate can affect on the current rate, proposed rate, SAC average, and Northern California.
Would you like to see commercial or residential?
Commercial.
Who restarted it? This chart right here.
Right, I just need to understand, the current proposed mean, whatever we proposing, SAC average is Sacramento average, right?
Yeah, the SAC average is for the city of Sacramento.
Okay, what put North California average is?
Do you know which the Northern California were? I don't know all the communities.
It's the purple.
What does each one of those three groups stand for, please? I know you have 4 colors, but you've got 3 separate
I'm
groups.
going to read the colors.
Right, again, the light green represents the current rates.
What does the group stand for? You've got 3 groups.
Mayor, can you?
We have the current year, year 2, and year 3.
Okay, the hearing's been closed, so we can't have any more public comment for that, but go ahead.
Okay, my question is, North California means North California also include Bay Area too, right?
Right, so the light blue is the Sacramento region.
Right.
And the Northern California represents Bay Area, Sacramento.
Bay Area too, right?
Right.
So our proposed rate on a commercial, I'm talking about this is a done deal. I just want to make a comment to the public, how the small business can affect the rate. Their proposed rate is very much compared with the Bay Area. And all the public know there is a difference between Bay Area and Sacramento, the living expense.
Well, one thing you need to also recognize, Paul, is that Many of the cities in the Bay Area have already adjusted their contract in line with the proposed legislation that we are facing and addressing in this contract. So they have already done that.
Yes, sir, I do understand.
So that is one reason why their rates would be comparable to
Right.
ours.
Right. I do understand.
Okay.
Let me, when your turn, I certainly, you're gonna have your opportunity to.
Sure.
Their rate is proposed, I'm talking about this is done deal. The previous council already adopt and city staff. My question is the local residents, the local business owner, they are backbone of our revenue. And they can be a biggest kind of hit for these rates. And if you comparison with the current rate with proposed rate, your rate, look at that road, the Sacramento average is much lower than the proposed rate. And I do understand the residential rate is also heading to 2, but I don't know, the business, they can be a big hit. If their rate going to 30 or 40% up, and there is a lot of small business in this town, and they're gonna get hit. And that's my thing, is I just want to make sure the public know this is done deal. Current council we cannot do anything because the protest is going to be 50%, and everybody know there can be no 50% protest. A lot of business owners, they ask me, and that's my responsibility to bring to the public. Thank you.
Do you need them to answer anything else for you?
No, thank you.
So, just to comment, I think what Kurt was saying, just to clarify what Kurt was saying that, that he believes that most of Bay Area has become compliant as we are, but Sacramento the Sacramento bar that you're seeing, it says the SAC average, they may not be in compliance yet. Would that be a safe assumption, or am I wrong on that? Is that why the SAC average is significantly low than NorCal?
That is a true statement. The city of Galt is leading the path in this change. So other jurisdictions are barely starting to talk about updating their contracts. Some of them which had already extended service contracts and have no need to extend or create a new contract are already talking with their haulers because of these changes in the market and because of the cost that their haulers are incurring. They're requesting a rating.
So if we saw the same graph in like a year from now or 2 years?
It would probably look much different.
Okay, I was just elaborating what. So on behalf, I actually have spent a great deal of this week diving into this very heavily. I actually went to Cal Waste twice. I did a tour of the facility. I've actually asked many questions of them for clarification. I've actually spoke with many people in the community, both residents and business owners. I myself am a Chamber of Commerce member and a business owner. Paul is as well. We understand firsthand what it's like about these commercial rates. These commercial rates are high. It is truth that the way that the numbers fell, that the commercial ratepayers are taking the brunt of this increase. To start a little bit with residential, I can say that even though I do understand that $13 is a lot to fixed income, my father's on a fixed income. $13 is a big jump. But I also can say that in my own research that I've done, because I don't take anything at face value, I consult with city manager on things, I get input from Cal Waste, and then I go do my own research because I don't just take anything from what I'm told. I go and I try to confirm things. And I can say that even after the 3 increases that the average person will take in a residential side, the rates will still be lower by about $3 or $4 than Lodi pays currently. So if you were living in Lodi, you're already paying what we're going to be paying, what an average resident will be paying in 3 years. So this would lead me to what one citizen commented about going out to RFP. I wasn't part of the negotiations. The previous council was. I know there were very extensive negotiations. We hired a consultant, which reasoning behind that was they wanted to bring in an expert that would, so the city wouldn't make any missteps in there. I'm not a big consultant fan of doing that, but I understand what the basis of doing that was, and it was to make sure that we were doing the right thing. I can tell you that if we had went out to RFP, we might end up with someone like Waste Management, which is who does Lodi. The way we dealing, and I just told you what Lodi pays. I know firsthand, and I know people that work at Waste Management, I know people who work for the company, and I can tell you one thing is that companies like Waste Management are not involved in the community as heavily as companies like Cal Waste. Cal Waste gives extensively to the community. And now I know that's no consolation for those of you that are paying higher garbage rates. But I'm telling you that these people give back to the community. And again, you know, they've been mandated by California. So in my tour of the facility, I was shown, you know, blocks of recycled materials that, you know, years ago would bring over $200 a ton to be sold. That same cube of recyclables actually costs them money to dispose of it now. So you can see what's happened is the state of California is still mandating that we, you know, that we divert, you know, more into recycling and become cleaner and more green and all that. But yet the economy and global economics and everything is playing a part, is changing things, and it's becoming more expensive for Cal Waste to do business. In a perfect world, I mean, we could just not raise rates, but you know, we can't control what comes trickling down from our state government and what is being posed. And we all know as Californians that every time we turn around, there's something else being handed to us saying, got to do this or got to do that. So as Paul said, this is kind of already, you know, this ship has sailed more or less. The previous council, that there was a huge negotiation for many, many months. They arrived at a decision. I don't think that anything could have been done differently. What I would like to say is Paul is correct when he says there's nothing that current council can do about these rates right now. And that is the truth. There's nothing we can do. This is going to pass, and what you've seen is going to happen. But what I would like to see is I do think there's something the council can do maybe in the future moving forward, and I would like to work towards that, is to possibly see how some of the money that is involved in this waste collection can make its way back to the community. And I'm not just talking about the money that Cal Waste already donates and contributes, but I'm talking about, I will be seriously looking at, you know, seeing if the council would be of the same mind to see how we can somehow, you know, I know we're in a budget crisis right now, but to divert some of the money that the city intakes for rates on refuse can make its way back to the community, so that we can indirectly see that money back in the community. And this could possibly be, you know, something that businesses could see in the long run. Even though they're getting hit with these huge increases, they can say, well, but at least we're seeing some of that money make its way around the circle and come back into us. I can't go into detail about that right now, but in the future, maybe there'll be more discussion on that. But again, as a business owner, I'm sorry, you know, I feel your pain, I definitely do, and Paul is a business owner as well, and I know Paul's rates are going up huge. I know that for a fact. We've had that discussion, so we feel your pain, but again, our hands are kind of tied at this moment, but we do care deeply, you know, for all the people that came up and put their 2 cents in, and I apologize, I couldn't give you a better answer than that, so sorry.
Councilmember Campion?
No, it was a very long and detailed negotiation with Cal Waste, and I think the decision that was made by the prior council, and hopefully the decision tonight to move forward with this, I believe is the right one. I believe it's the right company for this community. They have a very long history. Again, that by no way means that they should be entitled to it because of that relationship, but I think that the rates are accurate. That was R3's job, was to evaluate the reasonableness of the rating structure and to develop the rates that we have in an effort to make sure that not only is it sustainable for the consultant, for the operator, given that, you know, there had been no rate increase in 5 years, and that it's reasonable to the consumer. And I think all of those objectives were met with this contract.
Councilmember Lozano?
Yeah, I just have a couple of comments. I don't want to beat a dead horse. Everybody's kind of taking the thoughts out of my mind. But just a couple of things that really haven't been touched upon. You know, we talk about the state mandates and it coming down. It's also coming from the federal level too, indirectly or directly from legislation. But one of the things, one of the reasons I think the public needs to hear is that the reasons that recyclables aren't being purchased, because a lot of those recyclables at one point were purchased overseas, and there's been some parameters put on that as well. And so it's the federal government, the state government, and now pushing it down to us here at the local level. And I mean local level, not just the city council, but us, the citizens. And so it's really a tough one to swallow for me. You know, I talk all the time about economic development and what we can do to support our existing businesses, and trying to do what we can to make their lives much easier and much more profitable, because I think then it turns around and like Councilman or Vice Mayor Farmer said, is that, you know, then comes back into the community. And I will say, I don't believe tonight is really about the credibility of Cal Waste, because I think we all recognize that. But one thing I do want to point out is, you know, they were at our community dinner this last December, and we were in need of some appliances, and they went and got those appliances so we could help prepare the food to serve our people here. And so I don't want to, again, go over that, you know, over and over, but I think they are the right company for for our community. You know, it's going to be a hard pill to swallow for everyone. And I suspect that our, you know, prices for goods will go up in our commercial businesses. And so we will be affected again as residents. But I don't know that there is much we could do at this point in time in terms of the rates. So I'm not one for a rate increase on anything. It certainly doesn't make me feel any better when it's passed down from people down under the dome in Sacramento. And so, but I would be willing to support the recommendation tonight and move forward.
I have one last quick comment because I forgot to ask. Sorry. It is important.
Sorry, I was
so-
going to take a turn. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead then. Go ahead.
Just to let everybody know that we had the consultant in R3 to check out the other rates like Councilmember Campaign was talking about, and it was a negotiation. They didn't get what they asked for first. It was a negotiation. There was some wrestling going around. So we really did what we thought was best, what we could do for the community. And we're supposed to reduce waste by what, Ms. Klotz? By when?
75%.
75%? So hopefully the businesses can start reducing their waste and get on board for that and save some money. And Mr. Farmer said there's nothing we can do. Well, let me tell you, I have received at least 3 phone calls asking me to get on board for zero waste. Mayor Lamson, you need to get on board for zero waste. And I said no. And they're, how can you not get on board for zero waste? And I'm like, well, I'm a math teacher. Zero is impossible. And that would come back to my constituents' pocketbooks. So there is things we can do and you can do, but you have to write those letters for the California and for the federal, so they stop with all these regulations. Sorry, go ahead.
So just real quick, just so the businesses know that, and correct me if I'm wrong, someone from Cal Waste, but I was told that if a business wants a representative from Cal Waste to come out and help educate them on ways they can change up the way they're disposing of stuff or whatever to try to be more economical and lower their bill, that's a free service that they can take. Is that correct, Jack? I see you nodding your head, yes. Okay, so if you are a business owner, you're watching this, and you want someone to come out from Cal Waste and educate you on, you know, Garbage 101 and how you can streamline the process and help lower your cost, they are willing to do that. Also on the residential level too, one of the things that was negotiated with the contract was that all citizens are entitled to not only a handy hauler, which is one of those dumpsters that can get dropped off, which is a 3.5 cubic yard container. You're entitled to that once a year. You request that can be brought, you know, saves you a trip to go to the dump if you want to throw stuff away. And then in addition to that, you can also have 3.5 cubic yards of waste picked up, such as like, you know, an old microwave or some kind of appliance that can be set curbside that's the same content, 3.5 cubic yards. You're entitled to that also. These are included in as being a resident, you get these services. So these were things that Cal Waste threw in to try to, you know, lessen the blow to the citizens. So, you know, by means, take advantage of those, you know, do some cleanup around your place, You're entitled to it, so use it.
I would like to make a last comment. Thank you for the always. They always doing excellent job, and we believe they can be here. The only thing I would like to bring to the public, the commercial, the business, they can have the pain, but that's the way they have to live with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
As far as the businesses go, we're actually going to have representatives go out to every business and reevaluate their service options.
Maybe you can come up. to the
Rudy, can you
podium.
come to the podium? Sorry. Get you on camera.
What's that?
Karen's closed.
State your,
Vaccarezza with Cal Waste. So we're actually going to have like a representative from Cal Waste go to every business and reevaluate their service needs and how recycling fits into that. And with each commercial container price that you saw up on the board, there is a 96-gallon recycling cart that comes with that service. So that business will instantly be in compliance with the new state mandate that is mandatory commercial recycling. So there's an element to that that is included in that rate. And as far as the us going into businesses, we want to come in and get you the right service levels with recycling and reducing your trash. So that's we're not going to change your rates until we touch every business. So that's included in the contracts. I just want to clarify that.
good to know. Thank you. All right, I have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Campion. Can I get a second?
A second.
Second by Councilmember Lozano. Roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Farmer,
Aye.
Councilmember Sandu,
Aye.
Councilmember Campion,
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano,
Aye.
Mayor Lamson.
Aye. Motion
Thank you,
passes 5-0. Thank you, everyone. All right. Regular calendar, City Manager's Office. Request to waive the Public Employee Pension Reform Act 180-day waiting period to hire retired annuitant to perform specialized duties.
Okay, wait a few minutes till everybody clears, or do you
Yeah,
want me
wait
to
a few
dive
minutes.
into this?
Liberty Ranch students, just so you know, we start at 6.
We have sports.
Oh, okay. Who's your government teacher?
Ms. Johnson.
Okay. Hmm? I will email her tomorrow.
The government doesn't know what time.
No, apparently not. Well, it's been, we switched a year ago.
Teaching government, they're not teaching time management.
I think we should make them speak to count for credit, right? Extra credit. Extra credit.
Quick question.
What do I do?
Can I get the format, the presentation that you had today, so I can see it, myself? Because thank you.
And you can also
I
contact,
wasn't prepared, this is my first time that I'm one of these meetings.
you can also, yeah, no problem. You can also contact the city clerk's office, and we do post them online, so they're also available there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you ready? Would you like the floor back?
I can dive into this. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. A portion of my job is to provide my staff the resources and materials and things to do their job. A lot of times that comes through, hiring some consultants, and I know there's a lot of talk out there in the community about, consultants and hiring them. And there's two reasons to really hire consultants. One is that they bring some history, experience, skill set, expertise on a topic or a matter, and then also time. A lot of times we find that there's just not enough time in the day to move projects along. The item before you today is to request that you adopt a resolution to bring Mr. Winkler, who has recently retired from the city, back to help out with two specific projects. We're working on several projects that are identified in our strategic plan to kind of move them forward. Two of those projects, I believe, need more attention. They're becoming a little bit more critical for us to complete. The projects, lighting and landscape districts, I think that came up several times tonight, through our budget presentations, and a lot of that concept is that our lighting and landscape districts are, kind of moving towards not being, solvent, not keeping up with the cost of doing services. How do we, kind of stop that? Is there a way? In my strategic plan process, I kind of showed you some white space areas on the map that there are a lot of areas in the city that aren't paying for a lot of the services. So is there a way to kind of address that? The second project is our joint use transit facility. We embarked and received $3.3 million through SACOG grant, transit grant, to kind of redo our transit facility. Came back to the council. The property that we went through an environmental process not quite working out. So we're looking for a different site. We're also speaking with the school districts on partnering to kind of come into that process and work with us, and possibly do a joint facility that we can all utilize and work together. Project is coming a little more critical. Mr. Clarkson and I met with SACOG last week, wanting to know our progress, where we're at, if you're going to use the money. If you're not going to use the money, we got other uses for it. We're working with them to kind of show them our outline, and our deadline, I think, is 2022 to get our new facility, in the ground. Gives us about 4 years, I believe. Not a whole lot of time, but I think it's doable within that time. My opportunity is that Mr. Winkler has the experience, expertise, and some desire to come and work for us. He's in the audience this evening, so I can just a little bit. He's, I think, getting some a list of other things to do from other bosses he has. But I think the opportunity is here to bring that expertise for about 6-month period to help us get on track and build a better foundation for these two projects. And take a little bit of relief from staff so we can get those moving. So I request the council to approve this resolution tonight. It's a process to bring back a retired annuitant. This resolution does need to go to CalPERS. I am not versed in that whole process, but Ms. Hall is and can kind of help us out if we have questions on that process. So I open up the questions to the council.
I have a couple questions to start off. So the way the staff report reads is that the reason to bring back Public Works Director is to finish off 2 projects that you have deemed urgent, or a priority, for lack of a better word, whatever the verbiage is. And that his expertise in this is why, and if we don't, then we could possibly be looking at hiring a consultant to do so. Is that correct, Mr.
Well,
Manager? Is that correct?
I guess we can always go out and hire consultants with the PERS rate. Mr. Winkler would work at the rate of pay that he was receiving with the city, which is $74.46 an hour. If I went out to hire consultants in our typical consultant contract, and I actually pulled a few of those, principal consultants, project managers charge from $145 to $200, $220 dollars an hour. If I'm looking at going out to try and pull in somebody that may have some expertise, I think the fortunate part of this is Mr. Winkler has 6 years of knowing the city, knowing the projects. If the council chose policy-wise not to approve this tonight, we'll try and figure out how to move these projects along. I would say the transit project is our priority, and I'll work with Public Works to try and keep that moving and SACOG happy with our timelines. The Light and Landscape District project will be bumped further down the list. At this point, we're working, trying to establish CFD for Liberty Ranch, citywide CFD. There's just other projects that I think take some other priority. I do believe that right now I think by the end of the year, we need to figure out the lighting landscape district project, and I need some focused work on that, and that's what I'm asking.
Okay, so this is one of many questions I have, so thank you for that answer. So in my email correspondence with you from a couple days ago, I had asked you if we were close to hiring a new public works director. You said that we are close, that you've made a proposal to someone. You've actually, what we as the council entrust our city manager and with the faith that you are going to find the best people to fill your departments, which is why we don't really have input in that. We don't have input. We cannot tell you who to hire or tell you not to hire. We can't even, have any say in the contract, more or less. This is all done at your discretion because us as a council have entrusted you, our city manager, to find the appropriate people that you think are going to best fit our community in these department heads. Public Works is one of the, for lack of a better word, one of the most highly paid positions in the city. It's that important. If you are close to hiring someone, and your words were probably by the end of February, pending background checks and things like that, my question to you is that if Mr. Winkler had not retired and he was still working, would we be talking about hiring a consultant to finish these projects if he was still on board right now?
With the transit project, possibly. I would have to, analyze, kind of resources. A new public works director, yeah, I want to make sure they're successful, just like, my job is to make sure the council is successful, and in turn, the council's job is to make sure I'm successful in doing my job. So, kind of balancing, those projects, I would be sitting down with Steve if he were still here and trying to figure out how do we kind of move those projects along. Right now with the CFD projects, we have a team of people that are, working through those projects, including consultants. We've hired Will Dan. We have a, finance advisor and all that. And in order to get the landscape and lighting district projects, kind of moving forward, I'd probably say, yeah, we'd probably hire, somebody to help us kind of figure that out. At this point, I think Steve can, utilize some of his resources, to, help us move that light and landscape district, project forward.
And I have no doubt that Mr. Winkler knows what he's doing. I hadn't had that many meetings with him, but the one meeting I had with him, I know he's very passionate about what he did, and he was very knowledgeable. I also know that Mr. Clarkson, how long have you been with Galt, Mr. Clarkson? How many years have you worked for Galt?
45.
Okay.
7.
So I also know that Mr. Clarkson is very good at what he does. So speaking specifically to bringing on a new public works director, I do find it hard to believe that your ability to hire a competent and highly qualified person to fill that position, also coming on board in a new city, I understand that, but with someone like Mr. Clarkson, and to show him the ropes and bring him up to speed, I just struggle with thinking that we have to pay someone's retirement, then pay them to come back as a consultant. I just have a problem thinking we need a consultant at all for that, and then thinking that person's not going to be competent enough to manage the day-to-day. I know there was some verbiage about there's so much stuff going on and there's just a lot to have somebody do, so we just need this extra person. That's my thought on that. There's a lot of inconsistencies in this. Let's just dive into the actual proposal itself. So the proposal talks about a projection of 205 hours needed. If we were to hire Mr. Winkler, 205 hours is what is projected he would need to come on board and finish the completed said projects. So 205 hours at the rate that he's would come back at basically comes out to, and it was stated here that he would work approximately 80 hours a month. So that would basically be 2.5 months. So my question is, if he's going to start in February and he's working approximately 80 hours a week or a month, and he's going to need to do 205 hours, that's 2.5. There's verbiage in here about a pay increase in July, and the actual contract itself under Article number 2, the time of performance, basically states that this employment contract would be until December 31st. It also mentions that he is not to exceed 940 hours, which is mandated or controlled by our municipal code, and I guess 960 hours by CalPERS. So basically, he could work up to 940 hours. So you're asking us, you're projecting that he'll only need to work 205, but the verbiage of this contract that we would be entering into him says that he's allowed to work up to 940, and then there's also all kinds of verbiage in here with saying, well, depending on operations, and if, because I know how projects work. I mean, you project what's going to take, and then things maybe run over, and then my problem is I can see this as like, well, Steve's he's so good at what he does. Like, we got this other thing we need him to work on, and then, hey, since you're here, work on this, and pretty soon we blink our eyes and we're at 940. So this $15,000 that you're projecting that we're asking us to approve on as your estimate could very well be ended up being 940 hours, which is more like $70,000.
71.
So I'm just struggling with, no offense to Mr. Winkler, I know that he's good at what he does, but I'm struggling mainly with the idea that we even need to have someone come on and help us with these projects. I feel like, if we're hiring, a top-rate person to come in and fill those shoes, which I'm assuming that you'll be doing, that we don't need to have Mr. Winkler come in and work on this other stuff. I feel that a new public works director, and being that we're in a budget constraint right now, I mean, it would just seem very careless for me to approve something like that and just be writing a blank check of up to 940 hours for him to come in as a consultant.
Yeah,
That's my thoughts at this moment.
Those are good thoughts. I guess what I heard from you is accountability. And when I embark on a project and kind of look at timelines and all that, I definitely want to come back to my bosses and be accountable for what our progress is and how we are doing. The contract in there has some flexibility. Bottom line, it has $15,000, or close to $16,000 that I'm requesting, to spend about 220 hours. I don't know that Mr. Winkler will be able to work, the 40 or 80 hours, during that time period. Gives us some flexibility to kind of stretch that out. If I exceed that $16,000, then I'm coming back to the council and I'm going to have to be explaining to you, why, I, need more dollars or where that project is. And it may be that you are, comfortable and confident that we're moving forward with a good project. We need a little bit more to finish it, or maybe it's completed at that time.
But correct me if I'm wrong, you're not asking us to approve 15,000 and change. It's basically saying that's your projected estimate, but you basically what we're approving is.
Let me turn that over to the attorney, see what she has to say.
So the agreement template is based on the CalPERS templates, which is based then on the 960 hours maximum. Your municipal code does, I think it's the personnel manual has the 940 hours limitations. So that we just used based on flexibility. If the council is concerned with allowing, having the provision up to that maximum, we can certainly clarify that it should be less than that. I don't think CalPERS will have an issue with less. Their concern is the ceiling of the 960 hours. So if there's an interest in revising that to put either an hours cap that would be close to the 15,000, we could certainly do that if that would address some of the concerns that I'm hearing.
I think it would be just again, my last thoughts, and somebody else can comment how they feel. I think it would be a whole different conversation in general if we were saying, well, we haven't found the right replacement yet, and we're still actively recruiting, and so in the meantime, we're going to have Mr. Winkler come back aboard and help out. Or again, if we were talking about a specific cap of time, but we're really not doing that. I mean, we're basically, talking about him coming back on board simultaneously with hiring a new person. And to me, I mean, it just seems like it would be triple paying. We're going to be paying for Mr. Winkler's retirement, him coming back as part-time, and a new public works director. And I mean, we correct me if I'm wrong, we just froze, we were asked to freeze all O&M expenditures in light of our budget situation right now. And we're talking about cutting this and that and so forth and so on, and then we're just turning right around and just, I just.
Sean, I can't, you know, I understand what you're saying. At the same time, I don't think we should jeopardize $3 million in revenue over $15,000. I really
It's not
don't.
15,000, Kurt. It's not 15,000.
It's, if you listen to what the city attorney said, we can put a cap on the dollar amount here. The thing that I think is maybe you don't have a firsthand knowledge. When a new director comes in, it takes them no less than 6 months to even know what's going on in this operation. He's in charge of water, sewer, storm drain, wastewater treatment plant, all the personnel, and he's got ongoing projects in addition to new development projects. This job requires somebody who not only is very knowledgeable in those areas, but also has a working background and knowledge of the city and the existing projects. To expect the new Public Works Director to come in and assume these responsibilities is a measure of failure. It really is. I think what we're trying to do here, I think what the manager's trying to do, is find a way at the least cost for the biggest reward, and that would be securing that $3 million for this transit facility, assuming it can go forward and we have cooperation with the school districts. I think that's very important. And I don't think that $74 an hour for a person of Mr. Winkler's expertise, skills, and abilities is very, very reasonable. I find it hard to believe that this becomes an issue when you look at the issues that are facing the city. We've got issues with the lighting landscape district. We know it's going bankrupt. We've got to do something.
We've known that.
So why wouldn't we hire somebody who's familiar with this process and who can focus on it and hopefully come up with a resolution to present to council for consideration?
Well, that's what we're doing by hiring a new Public Works Director.
No, see, that's your misconception, Sean. This person he is going to have so many other issues as well. You can't, there's only so many, hours in a day, Sean. You haven't sat as a Public Works Director.
You're right, I haven't.
I've sat next to him for over 30 years. I know what they do.
And I do value your opinion, Kurt, because I know you know probably better than anybody sitting up here because of your experience as assistant city manager. You know how things work, and so for that I do value your opinion. But I also was elected by the people of the community who have been reaching out to me in force, wanting to know how I could possibly consider paying. I mean, people are already upset when they find out what some of our department heads make. But I tell them these are people that they have a certain skill set. They're hired to do a certain job, and they're good at what they do. So I just struggle with telling them, well, our new guy, he's not going to be good enough. It takes him 6 months to be good enough to be able to handle these things. We're sitting here being asked to cut things. I understand you want to miss out on the money that, once we finish this project. But so I know that you spoke to, would you like to elaborate?
Sure. How long, so the transit, the school districts aren't on board yet. I spoke to the superintendent today, and they're interested, but they're not on board. So I know Mr. Winkler's not going to be able to finish that in the 6 months. We don't have property, so is he going to be able to get
It's a
enough
one-year contract, limited by whatever dollar amount we have and the number of hours, 960, and Mr. Winkler's willingness to work under that one-year term. So it isn't limited to 6 months. It could be a year, spread out over however those hours are managed.
And thank you for clarifying that. That's exactly the point I was making. That if we're being honest, if we're being, cut and dry, it could be 940 hours.
No. You missed my point. You can limit the dollar amount of this contract. You could say it's good for 960 hours or 1 year, but the dollar limitation is going to be $16,000. End of story. As soon as that's out, it's done.
So if we did 16,000, that's 205 hours, 34 hours a month, 8 hours a week. I don't know if it's possible to do it with 8 hours a week.
I don't know. I don't know what are you saying.
We're just trying. We don't want to approve a big 70,000, or I would rather wait until if it's gonna be a huge expense, but the 15th, if we're until a budget and we know what's going on with the budget, it's kind of just,
So I know the LLDs is a big deal. So Mr. Winkler was kind enough to brief me very well on that. I actually have a pretty good grasp of that and what hard decisions need to be made on that to try to right that ship. And so I think us as a council, with the guidance of Mr. Clarkson and a new public works director, I think we kind of already have a little bit of a mindset, especially with someone such as yourself, Kurt, who has kind of a background in it. I don't think that we'll have any problem coming to some kind of conclusion what to do with the lighting and landscape.
It's not the conclusion, Sean, it's at getting the actual work done. We can sit here and spout policy all day long. That doesn't get the work done.
Right, but I don't like paying. I'm not going to pay somebody. I'm not going to write an open check for $70,000 to pay someone, and then on top of that, pay another $160,000 or $180,000 for another public works director to come on board. I was elected by the people to have that check and balance, and in situations exactly like this,
And I was elected for the same reason. Okay, I'm looking at it from a point of view of what is most efficient and what is best for this community. And what is best, in my opinion, is to hire Mr. Winkler on a limited term basis, and we put right in the resolution, this contract is limited to $16,000. If he's not done and we want to have him continue, he comes back, we give him more money. If we don't, we cut ties, that's it. But I think I am real concerned about this transit deal. As you heard the staff say, they were up talking to him, that if we're not going to use it, they're going to take that. They're going to pull that $3 million. I think $15,000 to leverage $3 million is a pretty good deal.
But I think if the school district has said, excuse me, Paul, the school district has basically stated that they're like, well, yeah, there was some discussion, but it's basically not even a priority to them. The way that they're talking, it doesn't even seem like, it seems early in the negotiation process. I just don't think that, 15,000 is going to bring.
The transit deal does not have to include the schools.
All right, well, I have said my piece, and I appreciate your insight, Kurt. Thank you.
before Paul talks, can I ask, what budget, and are we under budget? What budget's this coming out of?
The budget for the transit portion will be out of the transit funds. The budget for the lighting and landscape is out of the lighting and landscape district
Which we're
funds.
way under on, okay.
As you know, lighting and landscape gets backfilled by general fund. If, on the flip side, we need to figure out a solution, to this, and I think it's money, worth spending and trying to figure out a solution.
But you're confident we can afford it?
We're going to do, kind of nod over there from Ms. Tyson and Mr. Clarkson. And we'll do amendments, any adjustments that we need to in mid-year.
Okay. Councilmember Sandhu?
Yeah, I have the same concern because right now, Mr. Clarkson, we using as an interim public work department, right? And he's qualified to do his job. And Mr. Winkler, he did the excellent job, and I believe if we bring him back, he will do a good job. But the question is he be going to bring him is justified? Is we cannot do without he bringing back, because it can be a budget. We are in a budget crunch. And we also, I believe we have a experienced city manager. He already have the interview, and already he's bringing somebody at the end of February. So if we really look, Ma, we have only 2 months. And we still have an interim public work director. And when the new regular public work, if we really need something, we will think and we will discuss with him. We really need to bring him back. And at this time, my opinion is, same thing. I have to, this is taxpayer money. And I do understand your opinion is much stronger, but we have to use the money very wisely. If something, I know there's a 2 projects, lighting and landscaping. It was a problem for years. Is already start that? No. So same thing is a transit. There is a big grant. But I'm that is a good public, director or the city manager, they can prioritize the thing. If we without doing extra money including other department. That's kind of my opinion at this time. Thank you.
Councilmember Lozano?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. In preparation of starting with SACOG, I had the opportunity to talk to a few of the SACOG members, which this 3.5 million is coming from. And although we didn't talk specifically about the 3.5 million, there was certainly some conversation around the use of funds and making sure that that organizations are using their funds and not sitting on them, because there's projects all over the area that really could use the extra money. And one is just north of us here, and as it relates to transit. I too also concerned obviously about spending public money and how we're doing that. But I also see the investment of the $3 million as a significant benefit to the city, where we are could use the additional transit facility to better our community. And so the fact that we have this money out there, I don't think this is really a case of the ability for anybody to do a job necessarily. It's about lag time, in my opinion, and making sure that as we're going through forward with this project of using the money that's been granted to us, that there is no lag time, so that we don't get to a point where they're are asking for it back. And I'm not a huge proponent of retired annuitant work. I think you just hire a new person and do it. But there are a couple of cases where, in my experience, public agencies have used retired annuitants, and the benefit really, in my opinion, isn't the fact that somebody's already been there, because it doesn't even have to be that somebody's already in the organization. In this particular case, I think this is a unique project, and the knowledge of that project specifically, and the money that is hinged on and possibly going back up north, is a big chunk of money. I don't think we'd turn down a $3.5 million grant under any other circumstances. And so I don't know the history of why we're not spending it fast enough or any of that. But I think if we're going to invest, and I'd be willing to put a cap as well, but if we're going to invest in the community, we're going to have to spend a little bit of money. And so I would support spending the minimum amount of money that was put on the in the staff report, and then us doing our jobs and engaging the city manager on what the progress of it is over the 220 hours, and holding the city manager accountable for the work that needs to be done. And so that would be my suggestion, but I'll defer to.
Thanks, Rich.
others.
I appreciate you being devil's advocate on both sides of that. What you said makes a lot of sense. And again, what Kurt says, I value his opinion greatly as well. So I had a couple more questions then while I'm taking this all in. So the SACOG money that we're worried about losing, how long has that been available? I mean, how long is this project and we've known about this? I'm trying to establish a timeline of how much time we have had to have been working on this, and all of a sudden now we're like, oh my God, we need to finish this right now. But this isn't something that we just got like, a month ago, right? This money?
Mr. Clarkson addressed the project and the status, Reader's Digest version.
I'll give you a real quick summary of it. Back when I became the city engineer about 2.5 years ago, we had identified a spot out there where the original parks building is right now. When I evaluated the project, we had already completed 99% of the of the environmental on it. And when I evaluated the project, saw it was in the middle of a residential area, saw that Parks didn't have any money to put into it, saw that Public Works had no money to put into it, and it was anticipated $5 million would come from Public Works to help with that facility. Then we approached several entities to look at a joint use in a different location. And from the time of meeting with people who own an oil company that owned near the right-of-way, the railroad tracks, to meeting with the school district, to the school superintendent retiring, leaving on, it delayed for about another 6 to 8 months. When we started thinking about getting on track is when Mr. Winkler gave us his notice, and now we have this table filled, and I just espouse Campion, so we have so much projects going on that if you put something on it, something falls off. And that's exactly what's happened in about the last year with the project. So this project, now we got into a new agreement with SACOG to where we would use the money by 2022 because of the changes and stuff. And so we have that period now. And right now we are in that time period. We can do the environmental in a year, do the design in a year, and construct the project in the 3rd year. So we're at that time frame right now to do the work. And we're not wanting to delay it. Are we at risk? We're at risk. We need to get moving on that project, plus other projects that we have, that we're moving on. So that's been the delay for about the 2-year period that I've been city engineer.
So thinking about what Kurt said, about people coming, getting, taking time to bring you up to speed, but I still just have a hard time believing that a new public works director will come on and just not be familiar enough or not being able to be brought up to speed within a couple, 2 or 3 days about a lighting and landscape or this joint use facility and be like, this is where we're at. This is who we've talked to. What do you think? And then them hit the ground running. I feel like if that person wasn't that person, then maybe we should be looking for a different employee. The council's going to do what they're going to do. I've stated what I think. I just feel like if we approve the cap and just say, okay, let's just say I was in favor of the cap and we said, all right, let's just limit to $15,000 and to see, what he can get done in that time frame. I just feel like it's going to be like, 2 months from now, we're going to be right back here again saying, well, we're close. We're so close. We're going to need another this many hours. And then it's just going to keep happening. And pretty soon it's going to be like, we're just going to keep throwing money at it. And pretty soon it's going to be, that's my fear. I feel like we're opening a door here and we're not basically holding a new person accountable to do his job. And instead we're relying on a crutch, which that crutch being Mr. Winkler.
You actually need to hold me accountable. I hold my directors accountable. So, and what I'm telling the council is I need some assistance in getting these projects forward.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
City Manager, please. Vice Mayor Farmer, when I was appointed to the Parks and Rec Director position, I had 25 years' experience under my belt with the City of Galt. It took me a minimum of 9 months to understand what exactly this director had to do, and I had 25 years' experience. I'm sure if you ask Claire and if you ask Cora, when you come in, they know HR, they know finance, but they don't know the city, and it's very hard to come in and understand the job and then take on these new projects. I'm just trying to explain to you that it's not, you seem to think that it's should be up and running. And, we interviewed him. I think he's a great candidate. I think he's going to do a great job. It's just a little more difficult than I think people think it is. And I just wanted to say that piece because it's not as easy as people think.
Well, I do value your opinion.
So.
On the same note, though, I knew you had 25 years with Galt, but you were, with law enforcement. So it wasn't like you were 25 years as a Parks and Rec director and then came and worked as Park director. Am I correct? Okay. And you mentioned you've seen this person, and that's great. I mean, we don't know who he is. We have a council up here. We're putting full trust in our city manager to hire this guy who's going to be, running one of the biggest departments in our city, probably the biggest department, the most important. And we don't know anything about this. We have no say in that at all. So you understand our hesitation where, I got people like you saying, oh yeah, I met the guy, I've interviewed him. Well, that's great. We don't know anything about him.
And just the process is that I just hired a full-time person that city manager's never met, never knows, doesn't know who he is, doesn't know his name, but he trusts us as staff to make those decisions. And, you know, I think that's something that you need to do, and it's my opinion. I know I'm probably out of line, and I'm probably gonna get to talk to you tomorrow, but I really wanted to.
You know, I appreciate your opinion, Mondo, and I thank you for giving it. I mean, it does, I take all this in and I weigh all the factors, so thank you.
And one of the things that Steve and I talked about before he made the decision to retire is that one of the things I was hoping that he'd be able to do is finish the L&Ls because it's such an important part to the city. And he didn't get a chance to do that, and, you know, that was his decision, wasn't ours. We tried to talk him out of, I personally tried to talk him out of not going because I wanted him to finish that project off, but, so.
I'd like to make a motion if it's possible.
Would you like to amend it, or?
Yeah, we'll make an amendment to the resolution capping the dollar amount of $15,637 as set forth in the staff report. All other terms would remain the same.
Councilmember Campion, if you would be amenable to that also being instead of a dollar cap, that it be an hours cap?
Or
Actually,
hours, whichever
I
is-
would just need to confirm which one.
Convert it to
CalPERS
hours,
is
yeah.
Sometimes
And or
focuses more on the hours. The rate is capped, so that would equal around 200 hours, but we would
That's
figure
fine.
that out. So I understand the direction, but.
That was 205. I don't want to short him. 205? Those 5 hours. So we have a motion? Okay. Not to exceed 205 hours?
205 hours.
Made by Councilmember Campion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Lozano? Roll call vote?
Vice Mayor Farmer,
No.
Councilmember Sandhu,
No.
Councilmember Campion.
Yes.
Councilmember Lozano,
Yes.
Mayor Lamson.
Okay, I'm holding my city manager accountable and my finance director and Mr. Clarkson. Yes. So the motion passes 3-0, 3-2, sorry, 3-2. Farmer Sandhu against. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, council. Good discussion.
I apologize for making a face when you said most important department, because, you know, there's a man packing over there. Okay. I'm getting back to my agenda, sorry.
I have a quick question, real quick. How long does it take for PERS to approve or consider for this for approval?
We're not sure, but a month, maybe more.
It's pretty instantaneous. So as soon as the reso is passed, I just submit it online to CalPERS and they give me their approval.
Be a month,
Thank you.
more.
No.
No,
It
it'll
should
be
be
right away.
probably within a week.
Oh,
Yeah.
even better. Yeah.
All right, do we have any communication, Ms. Clerk?
We don't have any.
No communication? Do you have anything to report?
No report tonight.
No report? Comments by staff? Claire? Mr. Clarkson?
Nothing to report. Yeah, something really quick. You know, we got some rainstorms coming up, and I'm just letting the public out there know that if you put it on Facebook, if you leave it on a voice message, we may not get it for hours, you know, because we're not looking at it. But if you call Public Works, there's a little directory there that tells you who to call if it's an emergency, and we can get on it really quick. So if you have anything going on out there, just let us know through Public Works, and it works a lot faster.
What's the number?
366-7260. We should dance to that song. 366-7260.
So will the Galt app, you guys also on it on the Galt app?
Yes, we have it there, but it's just
connect,
we don't
sorry.
always look at it, and
Okay.
it, you know, and staff and stuff, you know, is gone at night and things like that. So
I put a
we do
down
have
tree branch
on-call
and they
people.
It was gone pretty fast.
Thank you.
Mr.
And Mayor,
Riley?
they can also call dispatch
Okay.
and get a hold of them, and then we have all the numbers for Public Works for call-outs after hours.
After hours call PD, non-emergency number.
That's a teamwork right there.
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Cora, who are you hiring?
We have Parks Worker 1, Plant Maintenance Mechanic, Police Officer. New is a Police Officer recruit position. A Rec Worker 2 ACES SOARS program. We're now hiring for swim coaches, and also wastewater plant supervisor.
Thank you. Armando, you've kind of been quiet this meeting.
With the retirement of Steve Winkler not making comments, they appointed me to take all this time. I have a couple of items. I have the Winter Bird Festival that's coming up on February 2nd from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Shabola Center. There's also tours that'll start earlier in that morning. You can register for those tours on our website. I'd like to acknowledge our key sponsors, which is Cal Waste, SMUD, Conservation Farms, and Consumnes River Preserve. Our keynote speaker will be Larry Broderick. And so I hope that you all can come out and enjoy that day. It's admission for free into the keynote into the speakers and to the vendor area, but there is a cost for the tours. Some of you guys may have noticed in some of your local parks and in the landscape areas that some of the trees look a little chopped up, a little cut down. We're trying to take all the mistletoe out of the trees currently, trying to keep them healthy. We have some help from the California, there's a group that comes in that's providing us free labor, so we're taking advantage of that right now. And we have 10 workers that we're taking out with us into the parks and doing some of those cleanup things that we normally don't have time to do. We purposely cut the trees that way to cut the mistletoe out so it doesn't look pretty, but we're hoping it'll come back in the springtime. I also wanted to go over something that's kind of hit Facebook a little bit lately. We close our parks down during the rain and a few days after the rain. What we do is we evaluate the parks to determine if they're playable, usable, and that includes Walker, Veteran, Sports Complex. And it could be sunny for 2 or 3 days, but after 3 days like we're having with the rain, the ground is still mushy. We have clay here and it just doesn't dry up. It just stays up on the surface. So even though it's been sunny for 3 days, we still keep the park closed because it would cause damage with all the weight, the moving, the tearing, and that also includes our dog park. You have some of those 100-pound dogs that go out there and tear it up. And what will happen is if they'll cause so much damage that we'll have to close the park down for weeks at a time to let it repair. So what we do is we close it down for a week, 2-3 days, a minimal amount of time, trying to keep our parks healthy. There's a field condition line out there. It's 209-366-7190. It's updated every day by noon. They can call to see if their park is open. And so I just wanted to make you aware of it, that, you know, there were some things going around on Facebook, but we close the parks when we have to, not because we want to, and we're trying to preserve the parks for everybody's use all around, year round.
So you're talking about just the parks that have fences that you can lock?
Yeah, a lot of our sports fields.
Right.
And then the dog park is included in there, the skate park's included in there, so.
Could we do a Facebook post to that effect? Is your park closed? And maybe just explain to him why?
Yeah, actually, I had talked to Gene, and he had advised me to put it in the bi-weekly. Unfortunately, I missed that time. I'd already submitted everything, so I'll be working with them to put it out again.
Yeah, let's get it to the Facebook.
So.
I know, you good?
Yeah,
I appreciate the mistletoe because it bugs me when I see mistletoe in trees. So, all right, I believe we have something to report.
From the largest, most important department in the city?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, I get it.
I'll leave it with that.
Couple things. So I represented you, Mayor Lamson, on January 10th at the Criminal Justice Cabinet Committee, but there's nothing to report on that committee there. Today, we had Officer Kevin Ton's 6th anniversary memorial, and despite the rain, we had huge crowds. I want to thank everybody in the council that were out there and city staff. But a couple of specific people I want to thank. First, the Tons. Their energy is second to none, and throughout the state of California and some of the other neighboring states, whenever there's a fallen officer, they're the first ones to go out to their aid, the fallen families, and they're just incredible people. Our honor guard, standing out there in the rain, doing what they do. They're a high value to me as the police chief, but they represent our city well throughout the state, and for any fallen, any formal event, and for today also. And then finally, I want to thank Mark Clarkson and all of his people. The ground conditions were extremely muddy, and at the location at F and 3rd where Kevin was murdered. And so without me asking, on his own, he and his crew went out and put down some surface rock to help so people weren't traipsing around in the mud. It is incredible what this community, what this city does to honor Kevin. And so Mark, you did it on your own. I didn't ask you. I appreciate it. And everybody out there appreciated you and your crew for what you did. So thank you. That's it.
Gene?
Mayor, I have one item. We have our strategic plan session scheduled for January 25th, and I was informed that Councilmember Sandu will not be able to make that date. We planned for an all-day session. At this point, I'd really like to have a full council to attend a strategic plan and talk about these issues and items that we continuously talk about. So I'd like to get some additional dates out to the council. I talked with Juan Lopez, who's helping us facilitate our session, and he gave me a couple dates in February, which are Fridays. Again, I was kind of focusing on Fridays, but if there's other days that work for the council, kind of wanted your direction on that, and if you're concurrent.
I would be in favor of moving it because he's not going to be. Also, we mentioned at last meeting, we discussed, there was a big thing about, Rich had talked about it, and we were big on, getting public input on this, but yet, we're having this thing on a weekday during the day, and it's like
8 to 3.
People are complaining online saying, well, we can't, who can show up to that? So
Maybe I can chime in on that a little bit and kind of talk, kind of big picture. We're kind of going through a process, and it's the council's strategic plan, and it's your time to kind of work with me and the directors and kind of, that team building as well, with, some of those, discussions on priorities. And once we start formatting that and kind of getting those ideas out there, I think part of that session should be a discussion on how do we, kind of get input from the public. And I think, this, first session is, the opportunity for the council to kind of start blending and molding, with, your ideas, and, listening to the directors and having those discussions. And then after that, we can kind of start getting out and seeing, what kind of input we talk about at the strategic plan session, input, with the community. So I don't know that it's, we scheduled times and certainly want the public to show up and kind of listen in and there'll be a section in the meeting to have public comment like we do at any council meeting, but it's really the time for the council to work with me and the directors and really kind of address those issues.
yeah, I understand that, but I also understand that the purpose of this is to kind of figure out which direction we want to take our city, and that city doesn't belong to just us, it belongs to the public. And there was a lot of people mentioning that we were kind of putting the cart before the horse, where we're going to formulate, prioritize all that we want to do, and then we reach out to the public and get input. But maybe the input should come a little earlier than that. I mean, I don't know if it's just me thinking that or whatever, but
I'm thinking public meetings after, but.
yeah, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It was just, we're talking about the direction of the city and but if I have to reach out to the public on my own, then I'll just do that. So prior to that.
Definitely would like all 5 council members.
I would like all 5 council members there, and of course our directors. So I guess pleasure of the council at this point. Try and reschedule. Is a Friday okay? Do you want to look at other times? Give me some direction at this point.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of, I think it's necessary to have all 5 there. And to Sean's point, I agree that we definitely want public input in this process, but one of the things that I'm going to value, I think, at least as the way I understood it from my conversation with Juan, was this is also our opportunity to help give the city manager some direction on what we want based on just kind of a global view. And then as we start narrowing that down and the public gives us that input, then that's when we start narrowing that down. And so I've reached out to the public for a year about things that the public wants. And so, and the city manager and I have talked, I don't know, ad nauseum, almost every about twice a month about it since December 4th. So, but I think this is a good opportunity for the 5 council members and the directors and everybody to get together and at least begin to roll out our expectations of the city manager.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'll shoot for, Friday in February, and I'll work with Ms. Settles to get that scheduled. Thank you.
Is that all?
That's all.
All right. Council Kimberly.
I do not have anything further. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay, Kurt.
I just have one thing. The Chamber is also having an event on February 1st at the Cibola Center in conjunction with the Winter Bird Festival. And so it's a food and drink event.
Wine, beer, and food.
And I went last year. It was awesome. And so we'll be going again this year, Pam and I. So,
Mr. Farmer, what did you, wait, I also, sorry, I do it again. Want to remind you guys that if you would like to make nominations, now's the time to tell us so we can get it on the agenda.
Yeah, we already discussed having that, right? Did we not talk about?
Your public safety, correct.
Yeah, so okay.
The Commission on Aging tonight, Mr. Ballier
Mhm.
requested it be brought back, so.
Okay.
So who still needs to?
But I need direction from a city council member who would like to make an appointment.
We can, I did email that one too, but if I have any additional, I still have a few I can email you beforehand, right? Okay. I just want to say that I attended the Kevin Ton thing today. It was really good. It was, thank you to Mark and Public Works. That was very nice out of Rock, because I was thinking about that all day. I was like, it's going to be so muddy out there. And, and I was, wearing, dress shoes. I'm like, well, just have to go wash them off, but the Rock was a nice touch. So that was very nice for him to do that. And, in light of all the stuff that's going on right now with all these, especially like with Newman, it was another small city that's lost an officer, in Davis, although they're bigger than us. But with all these police officers losing their lives, it made me kind of think back, that we lost ours, 6 years ago, and we're a small town. So it just kind of shows you that, it can happen anywhere. And that our, that our PD are out there risking their lives every day for us. So it's not just in LA, it can be, small town America. So that was good, that we had such a good turnout today. People are out there, even 6 years later. It was awesome to see that many people come out. And then last, on the 150 celebration, look forward to that. Think it's exciting, and I've been involved with the Historical Society and the Chamber, all kind of doing talks about that, and looking forward to that meeting on the 22nd. If anybody in the public is watching and they want to attend, to kind of listen in, we're going to be looking to form some kind of official direction of what we want to do with that celebration. Look forward to somebody from the city showing up, and I think it's going to be great. A lot of exciting ideas being thrown around. So.
No comment, thank you.
Well, I know you attended the grand opening of the new mall. I did. I think almost everybody did, Mr. Palazzo and the chief. There was one other opening that we attended. Oh, the new antique, was there one? There was one more. The Velvet Creamy. That's right, Business of the Month. So we did that. Also, I attended the Kevin Ton thing. It's my 6th year attending that. So very amazed at the turnout in the pouring rain, just the sea of umbrellas. It was heartwarming. And it's very important to his family that we never forget. So we appreciate that. Does anybody else want to appoint to the Aging Commission? You don't want to appoint anybody? Do you want to appoint anybody to the Aging Commission?
You won't be here February.
You won't be here February? Did you make an appointment? Okay, you just want to hold off. Okay. Meeting adjourned.